I had to ask myself the question, how much money am I actually comfortable investing in myself? And I was incredibly uncomfortable to take that much money into my hand. It was outrageous. In my head, I was like, she's just trying to sell me. This is insane. She's like making so much money on me, and I don't even know if this is going to work. And so I honestly took a leap of faith. Do you consider yourself a high achiever? Smart, driven, highly successful? I am so excited to have you. My name is Julia Arndt, and I'm the host of the Stress Podcast. I will help you develop your stress resilience the same way you've developed your workplace superpowers. Learn peak performance tools to thrive at work and in your personal life. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome back to the Stress Podcast. I am your host, Julia Arndt, and I'm so excited to sit down with you today and to chat with you about a podcast that's been coming on my heart and mind for the last couple of weeks and months, because I've had a very incredible experience over the summer and something that I'm still experiencing, and I really wanted to share this with you. In today's podcast episode, I want to talk with you about 5 reasons why you should invest in yourself. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a backstory of why it really made me think about this topic in the first place. This podcast is here for you to invest in yourself, to invest in your personal growth and development journey, and to understand a little bit better maybe why you're feeling so stressed or why you're feeling so overwhelmed, and why maybe sometimes you feel super emotional or sensitive. This is a podcast that was born out of my own burnout and out of my own challenges dealing with all of these big questions. And I wanted to be a source for all of you to see that, yes, your life can sometimes feel this way and it sometimes can be overwhelming, but the more understanding you have of yourself, the more you can actually deal and cope with all of these different things. And you can build a life that is generally at a much higher, happier, better level. And so this is why I started the Stress Podcast 4.5 years ago, almost 5 years ago, in January 2019. And we have, I think, over 200 podcast episodes that dive into all different kinds of topics and various insights to help you manage stress. I always say knowledge is power. I truly, absolutely believe that, because as I already may know a little bit about you, I know that you are a high achiever and that you are curious to really develop yourself as well, because you know that this might be the key to living a fulfilled life. It starts with you, right? And once you have more knowledge, you have the power to make actual changes in your life about that. So that's why I'm so excited to have you here. That's why I love to sit down and record these podcast episodes for you. And I would say, before we jump in, just 2 quick announcements. Number 1, if you are part of a team or an organization at a corporate company and you find all of these topics really fascinating, you really ask yourself often, how can you actually build and develop effective and high-performing teams? Then I would love to chat with you. Reach out to me. You can find my email in the show notes below. And the second announcement that I want to make is, if you are aware that all of these insights that I'm sharing with you are actually really interesting, however, you feel like you don't have enough time to actually get started, then I would love to see you in the Plan Your Week with Julia sessions. Every Monday at 8 a.m. PST, we are meeting together for 30 minutes to build a time management habit. This is an absolutely free community and a place for you to create new insights and create a new habit that I believe is one of the most important things that you can develop in order to create more space for yourself in your life, and create more space for fun, and create more space for reflection, and create more space for self-care, and for energizing yourself and managing and regulating your nervous system to a point where you're absolutely unbeatable. So if you want to join that, you will find the link in the notes below as well. And that's all I want to share with you. So with that said, let's dive into today's podcast episode on 5 reasons why you should invest in yourself. Hi, my friend, and thank you so much already for being here today. Thank you so much for spending and investing this time in yourself. I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that we get to spend this time together, and I'm so grateful for this medium that connects us together. And I want to chat with you today about something really cool. I hope this is inspirational for you. I hope this makes you think about a couple of different things differently maybe, and it all starts with a little story. At the beginning of 2023, and I've been in business now for 4.5 years, so just about the 4-year mark, a lot of things started to feel really challenging at the beginning of this year. So just to give you some context, I was working with a corporate team in January of 2023, which was kind of my last big booking at that point. And then I started to have just a lot of expenses coming my way. I had a lot of dental expenses that were kind of unexpected. I had to buy a new car because my car broke down. And so I had to take a new loan for this car, and I wanted to do a down payment for that as well. So just slowly but surely, I took more and more money out of my savings account. And at the same time, the industry that I mostly operate in, which is the tech industry, was experiencing probably the biggest recession that this industry has ever experienced. Google, Meta, Amazon, Salesforce, all of the big players were laying off people and were cutting budgets in order to save money. And that always, over the course of the last 4 years, had always an incredible impact, of course, on my business, because these are the companies that I work with most of the time. And so I started to experience this kind of like what felt like, honestly, a downward spiral, because I just had so many expenses at the beginning of the year, and it didn't really match the money that I was making at the time. And I'm sharing this with you because I want to show you as well that it is not easy to be an entrepreneur and we are going through ups and downs sometimes. And this is honestly also a story that I'm trying to change in my own head, because I actually don't believe this anymore, but I will talk about this in a little bit. And so, I wasn't in a really good place emotionally, honestly. Finances is something that always made me feel very secure. So when there was enough money in my bank account and in my savings account, I felt good. And if that wasn't the case, I felt not so good. And it had, of course, as an entrepreneur and a business owner, also an impact on my mental health, on my confidence, on my worth. And you just start to kind of think about all of these different things. What am I doing? What am I doing wrong? What can I potentially do differently? And I think this kind of experience is always a breeding ground for something bigger and for something better, actually. So while I experienced that, I did know, I feel like with my brain, that this will just transport me forward in some way or another, because I'm really thinking about what do I actually need to change, or what needs to happen in order to change all of these things. But I didn't really have an answer. I was trying a lot of different things. I was feeling like I was working very hard and many hours in order to develop business, in order to bring in business, in order to make money. And of course, for me, the biggest good is always to help people. And at the same time, I'm also a business owner. I'm running a business. I'm a professional business owner, and I am living off of my business. So yeah, it got to a point in May 2023 where, kind of the story kept on going, kind of being the same story. In my head, I told myself, there's just no money in the market at the moment. It's not their fault. It's nothing I can do. I was just kind of pushing this reasoning out to my external environment. And at the same time, I started to feel more and more ready to actually hire a coach myself to talk about these things. So I met actually an incredible person in May that was introduced to me, that was a business coach. And I started to talk to her. And I honestly feel like she could see through me. She was addressing all of the things that I was fearing, all of the things that were on my mind and that I was doubting. And she was very expensive. I'm going to say this up front. She kind of said that to me up front as well when I talked to her for the first time. She gave me her pricing and her budget. And I was like, no way in the world I will be able to afford this, especially with the year that I've had, especially given the fact that my savings account is almost non-existent. And I don't really know how I would even ever pay this kind of money. So I started to go out. So I had multiple conversations with her. I had a conversation with her in June for 90 minutes. That was absolutely incredible. And because of my lack of financial resources, I told myself, okay, I'm just going to talk to other business coaches because I do feel like there is value in this. However, I don't have this kind of money. That was my belief. And so I started to talk to 2 other business coaches, but I wasn't really convinced about them because they were great and all, but it was more of a sales conversation that I had with them and about how they were running their sessions and what their hourly pricing was versus really already kind of experiencing what working with them would be like, which was the other experience that I already had. So I was looking at these coaches that were way more affordable, but it didn't really impress me. And I was looking for someone that really impressed me, I guess, which I wasn't really aware of that, I guess, in a conscious state at that point. But I was just kind of like scrambling. And so my business coach, that's today my business coach, reached out back to me and said, hey, let's schedule another call. And I really want to support you and find a way on how we can potentially work together. And I said, okay. In my head, I was thinking to myself, well, the first session I had with her was so incredible and so powerful and so helpful. And it made me think about so many different things and actually made me take action on a couple of things right away as well. So I'm going to just take this other chance and I'm going to talk to her again because I know how helpful it is. And through the conversation with her for another 16 to 75-minute call that I had, I actually decided to sign up with her. And honestly, at the time, I had no real idea how I'm going to make it work financially. I was just trusting that because of the work I would do with her, the money would come back in, which is, I know, very naive maybe, or very optimistic of me to think that way. But I couldn't do anything else, right? Like I was thinking to myself, if worst comes to worst, I need to go into my 401k, or I need to take a business loan, or I need to sell some stock, or I need to sell my boat, right? There's all these material things that we have. But, my boat is beautiful, and maybe you've seen it or maybe you haven't seen it if you are following me on Instagram. And it's of course fun to spend time on the boat and to take it out on Lake Tahoe, but does it make me grow as a person? No, not really. And so that's basically the thoughts that I had when I went into this whole experience. And it brought up all different kinds of questions for me, right? And that's, of course, I'm sharing this story with you, of course, because we are talking today about 5 reasons why you should invest in yourself. And it was a really tough question that I had to ask myself. I had to ask myself the question, how much money am I actually comfortable investing in myself? And I was incredibly uncomfortable to take that much money into my hand. It was outrageous. In my head, I was like, she's just trying to sell me. This is insane. She's like making so much money on me, and I don't even know if this is going to work. And so I honestly took a leap of faith. I totally honestly did that. I just was like, I trust this person. She seems to be amazing, even though I only met her like a month ago. And she seems to have insights for me that I feel like I've somehow or somewhat had, but I didn't really know how to work through, right? Because we all have blind spots. And as much as I have done this work for the last 5 years, I'm not always perfect at how to build a business or how to do business development. Those are all things and skills that I was so happy to learn over the last couple of years. And there's still so many things that I can learn. So anyway, so the reason why I'm telling you all of this is because here we are 3 months later. And I honestly feel like my life has completely changed and shifted in 3 months. I have made the money back already. The investment that I invested in her in June, July of 2023 is now already back in my bank account 3 months later, which is incredible. And if she actually told me when she was talking to me, she said to me, if you trust yourself, if you believe in yourself, I promise you and I guarantee you that you're going to make triple the amount of money that you're investing in myself. And I talked with my boyfriend about it, and he was like, of course she's going to tell you this. He's like, is she actually guaranteeing you this? And I'm like, of course not. Of course she's not saying money back guarantee. If you don't make this kind of money in 12 months, you'll get your money back, right? I know that it was a reflection of me and of what I believed was possible. And it really stretched and challenged my belief system and put me in a completely uncomfortable space. It's very uncomfortable. I cannot tell you that if you take $5,000 a month for 12 months into your hands, how much pressure that created for me to actually make changes, to actually get really uncomfortable, to actually really challenge my own belief system. And it's paid off absolutely. I don't know, I know I said I already made that investment back, even though I'm only in month 3. And I do believe that this is probably going to be a 10x investment. And from a monetary financial perspective, of course, this is absolutely incredible because it creates the independence and financial freedom for me that I've always sought out. But it is so much more than that. So the first reason that I want to share with you today is you are always worth it. You're always worth it. One of the things that I've learned over the last 3 months alone, and it's always interesting how you can talk about all the things and you kind of have them on your mind and you're kind of conscious about it, but then you experience it. You actually have that experience. You always think, well, of course it's always worth to invest in me. But what do you actually do about that? And this podcast is not about selling you that you should invest $60,000 in yourself, but I just want to challenge you to think differently about buying a car or buying a boat or buying a house or buying a nice handbag and what it actually means when you are investing in yourself. You're always worth it because when you change, this is a change that will forever be there. You will forever be a completely changed person because once you're so aware of it, once you are seeing your blind spots and you're starting to act differently, nobody will ever take this ever again away from you, right? Because you are in this next higher set point that you haven't experienced maybe before. Definitely I hadn't experienced before. And I really wanted to get to this next set point in my life, but I didn't know how. And so you're really always worth it. You're always worth to invest money in yourself because money at the end of the day, and this might be a little bit spiritual or whatever, but at the end of the day is always just an energetic exchange of what that other person is doing for you. But most importantly, forget the other person. how committed you are to yourself, to your own development, and to how much you really believe you are worth. And that was such an eye-opener for me, because I had signed up for the $2,000, $3,000 courses here and there. And I've done the certifications. I think I mentioned them at the beginning of the year as well in the podcast. I did a lot of continuous learning, but I didn't invest in myself in that way where I literally had someone watch what I was doing and giving me feedback on that. And that, honestly, absolutely priceless. And that is the second reason why I think you should really, truly consider to invest in yourself. Education is priceless, and not education in the sense of I'm doing an online course, it could be, or doing a certification, but really, really investing in yourself. Education is priceless because it will help you to get to a new set point that you operate from for the rest of your life. So the return on investment is not just to calculate or to think about for a year or 3 years or 5 years, it's for the rest of your life, because you can't unsee these things. And what I was saying in terms of that commitment, that's one thing that I wanted to share still with you. And what I wanted to mention is that, sometimes you might sign up for a gym or for a yoga class, and you pay maybe $60 a month in order to go there to an unlimited extent. How often will you actually go? Maybe the answer is I actually go 5 or 6 times a week, and that's great. But I think, honestly, the most part of the population, most of us, are almost kind of forgetting about this investment. We don't even really think about this anymore, because $60 is nothing for us. And I do really truly believe that I needed to take so much money into my own hands to really show up and do the work, to really truly push myself out of my comfort zone. And I was incredibly uncomfortable over the last 3 months, because I was starting to have conversations, and I was starting to have conversations about certain budgets that I had never had before. And my first honest biggest realization was, oh, there's always money. And that there was no money in my industry anymore was an absolute limiting belief and a story that I told myself in order to keep myself small. So maybe this resonates with you in some form or way. And, maybe you're not a business owner and you're an employee and you're questioning yourself, why am I listening to this episode right now? Because this is obviously more business related context than maybe related to you who's an employee at a company. But it's the same thing, because if you start to show up differently in your environment, right? If you stop telling yourself, oh, it's my manager, that's not great. Oh, it's the circumstances in the framework, that's not great. But if you have the confidence, and if you have all of these more deeply powerful stories that you tell yourself now, because you've had that upgrade, because you've really invested in yourself, you will always be able to manage new situations differently and from a place of power versus from a place of insecurity and doubt and fear of failure and, a break in your confidence, all of these different things. That is the true power. And it's so fascinating. I've talked to so many people over the last couple of months, and, I'm always really happy to share all of these insights, because I just want you to know these things. I wish someone would have told me that clearly, that investing in someone else, no, let me rephrase that, investing in yourself is so powerful. I am a coach myself. Of course, I've had many clients that have truly deeply benefited from the work that we have done together. And yet I had never hired a business coach until this point, or a coach in general. I had worked with therapists and with different kinds of mediums, but not with a business coach. And so education is priceless. And every time I have a new conversation now, and I show up differently because I am starting to be at this new set point. And of course, I'm still swaying a little bit back and forth, because I'm still learning and I'm still gaining this confidence as I'm moving along. I tell myself, this is so priceless. I cannot believe this. This is so, so priceless. Every single penny worth my investment in myself, because I'm learning so much. I've already learned so much in the last 3 months that I've learned probably in the 4.5 years combined. Not because I didn't learn a ton of different things over the last 4.5 years, but because I stopped telling myself I can do this all on my own. Let's be honest. We think that very often. We think, oh, I can figure this out by myself. I'm listening to this podcast and I'm reading this book and then I'm just going to do it myself. Well, this is what I've told myself for 4.5 years, and I was decently successful with it. But as soon as something in the external environment happened, I was insecure again. And honestly, I know that this will never happen again to that extent because I have built a new belief system and a new story. For example, and I know that this is the case for many people, that money is my security and only when I have money in my bank account do I feel secure, is bullshit. It's a limiting belief that I had to break through, and that I had to break through in one of my first coaching sessions. Because when you really think about it, and that was a question that I got challenged with, was, when have you ever actually felt secure? Was that because you had $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 laying around in your bank account? Or was that because you had a wonderful life with your partner or your family, or you were traveling, right? It's not the money. So this was a really powerful insight for me over the last couple of months. And one of the reasons why I asked you this question at the beginning around how much money are you comfortable investing in yourself? Because at the end of the day, it's not the money. It's we use this as an excuse. We say, oh, I don't have the money to do this. But the money is just a representation of how committed you are to yourself. And if you're actually going to really, really invest in yourself for a couple of months and really get to that next level in such a short period of time, because you're really putting that focus on you, then to say, I'm going to pay a coach. That's maybe $200 per hour, and you have 1 hour per month. How much do you really think, like, let's be really honest, how much do you really think you're going to change then? If you don't have homework really, and if you don't really have someone that looks over your work and that can give you feedback in the moment about the things that are coming up for me, no matter if it is kind of physically, right, like an email or conversation, or more emotionally. And that's been really an incredible experience for me. So yeah, we have 2 reasons so far. Number 1 reason why you should always invest in yourself is you're always worth it. You're always worth it. If you've ever doubted that, that is a limiting belief. You are worth, there's no money to put into your worth. You are worth everything. And that's why number 2 is education is priceless. You are priceless. Investing in yourself is priceless because you can't measure this up, right? For me at the moment, of course, it's easier because it reflects in my business numbers, but I cannot tell you how much it reflects in how I am showing up day to day with my clients, how much more comfortable I am to talk with them. And here's the powerful thing. I can actually help them. I can actually help them. The money thing is just an exchange, of course, to keep me going in my life, right? But when people actually take money into their hands in order to invest, not just short term, but really long term, and they really invest, I can help them be more successful, no matter if it is an individual or a team. The third reason that I have for you today, why you should invest in yourself, is because when you invest in yourself, it will always help you to grow in all areas in your life. So you might think right now, well, okay, she invested in business coaching, so her business is thriving and growing, which is true. And it had a significant impact on how I show up in my relationship, how I show up with my family, how I show up for myself. It's been so impactful. Of course, when I'm stressed, and when I was stressed going through kind of this more challenging start of the year, how do you think I showed up to my partner and to my family? Frustrated, angry, not confident for sure, emotional, all of the things. And so now that I'm learning all of these different things about myself, I show up so differently. I show up so much more confident and not actually letting my business success impact how I feel. And that was one first thing as well that I learned in this relationship, which was, if I truly make my happiness dependent on how much money I make every single month, then I will never be happy. I will get to that set point. I will get to the 200,000 and to the 300,000 and to the $500,000 or even $1 million. And that will also not make me happy. Why? Because I am attaching my self-worth to a number that's outside of me. And that is the totally wrong way to think about this. And I don't want to preach here or sound like a preacher, because I am, of course, still going through all of this development and understanding, but how much more of a powerful set point to think from that perspective, right? To really work on my self-confidence, because then I can show up so differently in everything that I do. And that's really been like that in all of the conversations I've had with my partner, the conversations I've had with my friends and with my family. I truly believe I am a much happier person. And I'm really proud of myself. Let's be totally honest. I'm proud that I trusted myself, that I can create this life. So when you invest in yourself, it always has an impact on your whole life, because you're a holistic individual being, and it's not just going to be impacting your work, it will impact all different areas of your life positively, I believe. Why should you invest in yourself? Here is reason number 4. Habit building and new patterns, new pattern development, new neural pathways in your brain take time. It takes time. It takes time to develop that. So, and this is reason number 5. They kind of go hand in hand together. Reason number 5 is time goes by anyway. So how are you investing time in yourself? This is how I've thought of in my whole life. I think I've always thought that way. I was always really conscious that time flies by, and that you can either spend your time doing what you're always doing without really reflecting on your life, without really being intentional on your life, without really planning or doing things differently, or you can be really intentional about it. And you can get so much done. You can learn so many new things. You can develop to always new levels, because I don't believe that development ever stops. It's a lifelong experience, because there will always be new challenges and things that are thrown your way. And so, because habit building and pattern development takes time, it is important that you invest that time in yourself, and that you understand, well, if I don't start now, even with just 5 minutes of maybe doing yoga, right? Because it could be all kinds of different things. I'm not just talking here in this podcast, even though, of course, I've been using my own experience hiring a business coach, but I'm not just talking about the investment of hiring a coach. Let's be really clear. I'm talking about the investment of investing in yourself, of listening to this podcast, of deciding I actually want to move my body more. I'm going to do this 5 to 10 minutes every single day, and to start with that, because it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be an hour gym session every single day in order to get fit. It just needs to be really small. But When you trust in that process, when you trust that actually, when I am investing this time in myself, things will shift and change, then you really start to experience a different life. It's really the habits that form who you are. So powerful. And time goes by anyway. So how are you spending your time? How are you spending it? Are you spending it being constantly frustrated about yourself? Are you spending it constantly telling yourself, next day or next week, next month, next year, I'm going to do X, Y, Z? And you just kind of push this goal in front of you. Or maybe you keep telling yourself, oh, this is just the way I am. This is just how it is. And it will take time. Maybe it will take time, but maybe it will take 6 months versus 5 years or 10 years. So what are you doing to work consciously towards the goals and the things that you really want in your life? Start now. This is my message for you. Don't be afraid to invest in yourself, no matter if it is time, resources, or money. Don't be afraid of doing that. This will always come around, this investment of listening to this podcast, because I'm planting seeds in your brain to think about things differently. It will always be worth the investment of you going for a 30-minute bike ride or for a 20-minute walk or to try out a meditation for 10 minutes. It will always be worth it because you won't be the same person. And if you are frustrated about your progress, or if you are impatient of actually seeing changes, then there are always different ways on how you can accelerate these things. The question is, are you really committed? Are you really committed to yourself? Do you really believe that you can show up this way? And you might think, but I don't really have the time, or I don't really know if I can really change this. And we are really being so stuck to our own identity sometimes. And we tell ourselves these things in order to keep ourselves small. And here is the neuroscientific explanation of why we are all doing this. Because your brain is trying to keep you in a safe space. Your brain does not know the difference between good or bad, or beneficial and not beneficial. Your brain is not going to think, oh, this is really beneficial for me, so I'm totally getting uncomfortable and I'm going to totally do this other thing that I'm not used to. Your brain is going to think, holy shit, this is so freaking scary because I've never done this before. And I'm going to come up with a million different reasons and excuses why I am not going to put myself into that space, into the space where I am actually going to get uncomfortable. This is the reason why, if you've ever started to try and learn a new gym routine or workout routine or nutrition routine, all of a sudden your brain is like, today I'm tired. Or I don't know, it's kind of cold outside, or I don't know, I feel like my back hurts a little bit, or I don't know, I have a stomach ache, or I don't know, I just don't really feel like it today. That is your brain keeping you in your safe space. And again, we talked about knowledge is power at the beginning of this podcast today, because when you know that, when you can read those signs, or when you can observe these little thoughts that are coming up that are keeping you from actually taking action, you can say, hey, there they are. Here's my brain trying to keep you safe, trying to keep me safe. Thank you very much, brain. Love it. You're doing exactly your job. And I actually know with my logical brain that this is actually beneficial for me. This is actually going to help me move the needle in whatever you want to achieve. No matter if it is a new job, applying for a new job, creating a new routine, hiring a coach, going to take the certification or the education that you've always dreamt of, but you were always a little bit afraid of, because you always told yourself, I don't really know if I have the time at the moment to do this thing. I know. Oh, I know, trust me. It is scary. The time you will always have. Always. If you tell yourself, I don't have the time, let me tell you, you always have the time. Even if it's just 2 minutes a day. 3 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. You have that time. I have met so many incredible high achievers and performers that are doing a million things at the same time. They have a full-time 40-hour job. They are training for an Ironman. They are running their own business. They are having a family. They're having a child, and they still all make it work because it's important for them, and they have found a way to manage it all because it is possible. Whatever you want to achieve, it is possible. And that's why, if this, in whatever reason, resonates just even a tiny little bit with you, you can do this. How much are you comfortable investing in yourself? Money, time, resources. I could also reframe this question and ask you, how confident are you in yourself that you can actually change? And that could be the first thing that you need to work on, because maybe you say, I don't really know how confident I am about this. It's really, really scary. And I understand. Your brain also understands. Really scary, because you are going, instead of going on highway 101 every single day, and you're like, I don't have the time to do this. I don't have the time to do that. I don't have the money to do this. You're starting to go down this new little deer trail that's not really developed in your brain. And so that's super, super scary for your brain. And that's why neuroscience and all of that stuff is so fascinating, for me at least. And I hope for you as well. And I hope that with all of these little pieces and nuggets that I'm sharing with you, you're like, oh, that's why I'm doing this. And trust me, again, I am not perfect. I have times and weeks where I have a very powerful, strong mindset, and I go do my exercise workouts every single day because it's really important for me and I actually love it when I do it. And some other weeks I don't, because my brain is stronger than me, or because I got sick, and my body actually really doesn't have the resources to do it, or the energy to do it at that point, right? Or I'm traveling a lot. But again, I'm working through that at the moment myself because I know those are all just excuses. And sometimes there's a little bit of a delay between what I know is true and when I take action. And I trust that now, because I know that I've gone through this process so many times before, and I know I can just either overthink it, or I can just start to take action. 5 reasons why you should invest in yourself. Number 1, you're always worth it. Number 2, education is priceless, no matter what kind of education it is, no matter if it's a coach, a therapist, a gym instructor, a nutritionist, an online program. Education is priceless because you'll always learn, you'll always grow if you invest that time in yourself. Number 3, investment in yourself will help you grow in all areas of your life, not just in business, not just in your personal life, not just your stress management technique or your stress management toolbox. In all areas of your life will this have a significant impact. Number 4, habit building and new patterns take time. So why not start now? And then number 5, which is kind of connected to that, is time goes by anyway. So how are you investing that time in yourself? That's all I wanted to share with you today. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for investing this time in yourself. And if you found this podcast helpful, please share it with a friend. Please share it with a family member, with a colleague, and discuss this podcast. What resonated for you? What didn't? What do you find challenging? And have these conversations. Challenge your own brain and challenge your own mindset and stories around different things. And I would love to see you either on my YouTube channel, where I am posting the videos of this podcast, as well as my Instagram account, where I usually post some little teasers about the podcast and I just love to see you there and I love to communicate with you. This is the reason why I do this. The reason why I have been sitting down to record these podcasts and to record these YouTube videos every single week for 4.5 years is to build a community of people that wants to be challenged and that is not afraid of putting in the work in order to grow. And I want to hear from you. I want to hear what resonated with you. What do you still find super challenging? What is coming up for you? Share it with me. Share it in the comments, either here on the YouTube channel or on my Instagram account underneath the video. And let's start chatting. Let's lift each other up. It takes a village, 100%. And I want to be that village, at least one piece of that. I want to be that for you. So thank you so much again for being here today. I hope you take good care of yourself. And I also hope that I will hear you again in a week from now for the next podcast episode.